Max, the household's meticulously trained canine, took his place at the end of the child's bed, his ears pressed flat, his form unyielding, his piercing gaze riveted on an imperceptible entity in the gloom. Shortly after, the parents were startled, awake by the sound of barking, profound, pressing, and unyielding. Something was awry, and they were clueless about the looming danger. Max had always transcended the role of a mere animal. He was a cherished member of the family, a former canine operative schooled in search, rescue, and defense. He had dedicated years to collaborating with law enforcement, detecting threats before they materialized. Now, he served as the quiet sentinel of the Wilson clan, overseeing their residence and, most crucially, their 5-year-old son. Even, Max never exhibited hostility without cause. He was serene, controlled, and passionately devoted. He trailed Ethan everywhere, romping in the lawn, dozing by his side, keeping vigil as he slumbered. The Wilsons had always depended on his judgment, but now something had shifted. Night after night, with precision, Max would position himself at the base of Ethan's bed, snarling into the obscurity. On certain evenings, his frame tensed, his coat standing on end, as if an invisible presence hovered close. The parents tried to convince themselves, perhaps he's simply being watchful. Perhaps it's trivial, but deep inside, they recognized Max's behavior had purpose, and soon they would learn the reason. At first, the Wilsons shrugged it off. Dogs possess instincts, and maybe Max was merely excessively cautious. But it persisted, occurring nightly just beyond midnight. Max would rise from his resting place and assume a protective posture by Ethan's bedside. His ears flicked, his nostrils widened, and a low, menacing growl would commence, laden with caution. The initial nights, the parents disregarded it. Perhaps he detects a sound outside, a raccoon or a passing vehicle, but upon checking, they found nothing. No activity, no explanation for the dog's response. Then matters worsened. One evening, Max's growl transformed into a fierce snarl. He stood between Ethan and the wardrobe, his form rigid, his fangs bared. The parents dashed in, turning on the lights, anticipating something, anything, but the room was bare. Ethan stirred, wiping his tired eyes. "Max doesn't like the wardrobe," he mumbled. A shiver traced Mrs. Wilson's spine. The wardrobe? She crouched beside her son. "Why do you say that, darling?" Ethan faltered. "Because he snarls." At it every night. The parents traded anxious looks. Something was amiss, and whether they were prepared or not, they were on the verge of uncovering why. The wind roared outside, jarring the window panes. The Wilsons had barely rested in days, their nerves unraveling from Max's unyielding conduct. Night after night, it was consistent. The snarling, the taut stance, the way he placed himself between Ethan and the wardrobe. But that evening was distinct. The growl began sooner, low and resonant, then escalated into a piercing, savage bark. Mr. Wilson leapt from bed, his heart pounding. Max was barking as he never had, frantic, enraged, critical. Hurrying to Ethan's room, the parents flung open the door just in time to witness Max charging toward the wardrobe, his teeth gleaming in the soft glow of the nightlight. His frame was unyielding, his fur bristling. Then Ethan shrieked, "Mrs. Wilson seized her son, holding him near, as Mr. Wilson switched on the light. Max didn't cease. He persisted in barking, his form obstructing the wardrobe door. Then it occurred, a noise, A gentle thud from within the wardrobe. Mrs. Wilson gasped, gripping Ethan more tightly. Mr. Wilson's hands quivered as he reached for the wardrobe's handle. Every fiber of his being urged him to stop. Max emitted another cautionary bark, his form pressed against the door, as if warning, "Don't open it." But Mr. Wilson needed answers. His fingers clasped the handle, and as he tugged the door open, what he beheld chilled his veins. The wardrobe door groaned ajar, the faint hallway light flooding inside. Initially, Mr. Wilson saw only garments hung tidily on their hangers. But then his breath caught. There, in the furthest recess, behind the draped coats and piled shoeboxes, was a narrow, shadowy opening in the wall, a crevice just wide enough for a person to slip through. Mrs. Wilson gasped, What is that?" Mr. Wilson knelt, his pulse racing, peering into the gap. His stomach knotted. Something was within. A rustling noise followed. Max's barking intensified, his form taut like a womb coil. He surged forward, his snarls deep and guttural. Mr. Wilson seized his phone, activating the flashlight. The beam sliced through the darkness, exposing something that made every hair on his body stand erect: a sleeping bag, a mound of food wrappers, a partially empty water bottle, and beside it, a small serrated blade. Mrs. Wilson stifled a gasp. Someone had been dwelling within their home, directly behind their son's wardrobe. The realization struck like a runaway locomotive. Max hadn't been acting belligerently without motive. He had been safeguarding Ethan, alerting them, and they had dismissed him. Tears stung Mrs. Wilson's eyes as she clung to Ethan. Mr. Wilson swallowed hard, his trembling fingers dialing 911. Max unleashed one final, booming growl. Whoever had been concealed, there was no longer hidden. The moments crawled by like eternity as they awaited the authorities. Max remained anchored before the wardrobe, his growls low and constant, his form primed, as if daring whatever lurked inside to stir. Then, footsteps resonated from deep within the wall's crevice, a faint scuffling. Mrs. Wilson gasped sharply, clutching Ethan more firmly. Mr. Wilson retreated a step, his pulse thundering in his ears. Abruptly, the sound of splintering timber filled the room. A concealed panel, an access door they had never observed, swung open from within the wardrobe's hidden compartment. A man emerged, his garments tattered, his face haggard, his eyes frenzied and hollow. He lunged forward, but before he could advance further, Max struck. The canine sprang, slamming the intruder to the floor with a force that shook the room. Fangs bared, Max restrained him, snarling, keeping him immobilized. Moments later, flashing red and blue lights illuminated the windows, sirens piercing the night. Officers stormed in, apprehending the man, securing him in handcuffs, and hauling him away. One officer turned to the Wilsons, his expression somber. "You have no idea how fortunate you are," he remarked gravely. Mr. Wilson swallowed hard. In truth, he did. They had Max, and he had just preserved their son's life. The residents grew quiet once more, but the atmosphere lingered heavy with the recent ordeal. Max rested beside Ethan's bed, his breathing steady now, his dark eyes alert. He had accomplished what no one else could: detected the peril, sounded the alert, and shielded his family when they needed him most. Mrs. Wilson knelt beside Max, caressing his coat with trembling hands. "Good boy," she murmured, her voice faltering. That night, as Ethan slumbered peacefully for the first time in weeks, Max curled up beside his bed, silent, steadfast, ever vigilant. If this narrative astounded you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more extraordinary tales of valor, survival, and the indomitable bond between humans and animals. Press the bell icon to ensure you never miss an uplifting story like this, because sometimes the most silent heroes deliver the most resounding warnings.